Okay, so very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sumit Kumar. This is the 7th class of the Soil Mechanics, Geotechnical Engineering 1. This course is taught by Professor Dilip Kumar Avet. I am the PhD research scholar at IIT ISM Dhanbad. In this coursework, we are reading the basic concepts. Starting from the first class, we have covered many points studying the geotechnical engineering. This coursework will be helpful for all of you if you are in the BTech or maybe in the masters, or whether you are in any industrial institutions. This will also help you in some way or the other. Accordingly, the assignments will be shared with you by the NPTEL team. I hope you could able to solve those problems from the assignments. And at the end of coursework, as per my knowledge, there will be an exam. So I am hopeful that this coursework will help you in answering the question from that exams along with assignments. So in the last class and today as well, in the last class I have taken the question from the competitive examinations in the form of MCQ. Today also I have made several problems. If you look at the number of slides which I am carrying today is huge. So I am sure that I could not able to cover the entire thing, but those are the questions related to the concept which we are going to discussing over here in this class only. So I will suggest you that please go across the whole PDF, whatever we shared with you at the end of the session, so that the concept get more clear and what type of question could be framed is also in one way or the other better understanding could be developed. Okay, so today we are going to study the shear strength and the various tests. In the previous class also we have taken the little part of that. So in this class I am hopeful that once I elaborate the concepts and when we move to the question, you will easily understand the shear strength problems. In the last class, a brief description is already given about some tests as well. Today also we'll carry forward those concepts. Afterwards, some questions are there, like the 25 multiple choice questions, and 25 theoretical questions are also framed for the reference for the better understanding of the subject. So, if I could not able to cover the entire things, I will share the PDF with you. You will try to solve by yourself, or at least read many theoretical problems are also there. Not all the numerical problems is mentioned over. So I am very much confident once you solve those problems, it will help you in your examination, which we will going to take place at the end of this coursework. Okay, so first of all, today, as I have said earlier, that we are going to study about the shear strength. In brief, we have taken this discussion in the last class as well. One additional PDF, if you have gone across the content which is shared with you, you have seen that one additional PDF is also shared in which these test descriptions and some problems associated with same is also mentioned over there. In today's class, we will carry forward those discussions to some better understanding of the theoretical aspects. Okay, so first of all, we are talking about the shear strength and the determination of shear strength parameter. So as I have said earlier, that some of the tests are also there. Some are the field tests, some are the laboratory test. Over here you can see that the direct shear test, triaxial test is the laboratory test which we perform in the laboratory by taking the sample from the field to obtain the shear strength characteristics of the soil. When we see the shear strength characteristics of the soil, shear strength parameter of the soil, the cohesion and angle of internal friction are the two of the most important shear strength parameter. Additionally, the unconfined compressive test and the vane shear test are also the two of the tests which performed. Vane shear test is laboratory as well as the field test, depending upon the conditions available in which we could able to perform those tests. So moving ahead with the descriptive discussions about these tests. So direct shear test is also called a box test. Why we call it as box test is because the sample, the soil sample we take is in the form of box, and how the shear failure takes place we are going to discuss in the coming slides. So first of all, you see over here the figure presented in the right side section, you can see that the normal load is applied from the vertical direction. The sample is kept in the rectangular box. If you imagine it in the 3D, it is a box type section. That's why it's also called as the box test. Then the shear force is applied from the horizontal direction. The various discs and some of the other deformation measuring sensors are also there in the laboratory with these test apparatus. I am hopeful that if you have must aware with these test equipments in the laboratory. If not, I will suggest you go to the laboratory of soil mechanics at soil mechanics or the geotechnical engineering lab, whatever named over there. You go over there and look out these test apparatus, and from the lab assistant try to understand that how the these equipments are used to obtain the shear strength of the test. I go over here with the theoretical aspects. In additionally, if you want, if you don't have those equipments available at this point of time, if you are the BTech pass out student, so it is not possible to move to the laboratory. So I will suggest you can see NCTEL that shear test descriptions is there on the YouTube. It is similar to NPTEL. The laboratory part is there. Laboratory section elaboration is there. If you search over there, they also describe very sharply and very descriptively. So that understanding could be developed through the visual inspection. Over here, I will explain everything in the theoretical term, but if you see how the test performed, how the failure takes place, your understanding will be wide better as compared to the theoretical aspects. Okay, so the usual plant size of the sample is 60 mm into 60 mm for testing the granular materials such as the gravel. Large size box, generally 300 mm into 300 mm is also there. So that is not in normal case. 60 mm 60 mm is the standard case which is available in the most of the laboratory of the geotechnical engineering lab. In this, a vertical load is applied to the top of the sample by the means of weights, as the shear plane is predetermined. As we know over here, the two boxes are separated in between, and it is already known that the failure takes place from that section only. Hence, it is written that the shear plane is predetermined in the horizontal direction, and the vertical load is normal to the plane at the failure as shown in the figure as well. So the shearing force is gradually extended on the box from uh, electrically driven screw jack. It is not electrically driven always. Sometime manual is also there depending upon the what type of apparatus is present in the laboratory. It is not always the electrically driven. I just want to mention. Now, when we let's understand that how the normal stress and shear stress at failure obtained, and once we obtain this normal stress and shear stress, how the shear stress parameter could be evaluated. Now, over here it is mentioned that the untrained shear box tests were carried out on a series of soil samples with the following result. In first, it is mentioned that the total normal stress is 100 kN per meter square. This normal stress is shown in the figure. Over here, the normal load is applied from the vertical direction. So the normal stress is 100, and at the failure, shear stress is 98. Subsequently, 200 and 139 are the normal stress and the shear stress at failure. For the four normal stresses, corresponding shear stress at failure is mentioned. Now asked to determine the cohesion and angle of internal friction of the soil with respect to total stress. Now just you have to plot this on the xy plane, in which on the y axis the shear stress is there, and on the x axis on the x-axis normal stress is there. Once you plot the graph like this, let me take a pen. When you take the value at x-axis, this is the x-axis, and at x-axis you take the normal stress, and at y-axis you take the shear stress, you will get some figure like this, the horizontal line. The intercept at y-axis is cohesion, and the angle with the horizontal axis is the value of phi, that is angle of internal friction. So and the solution is also I have kept on the next slide, so we will see accordingly. So observe that first of all take the point 100 kilonewton per meter square and 98 kilonewton per meter square. So on the x-axis the value should be 100, corresponding value at y-axis is 98. Now let's see the figure. Over here you can see that the at x of 100 y is 98. Subsequently at x value of 200 and the y value is come out to be 139, and so on. This graph not always come exactly in the straight line, but the best fit line you plot depending upon the normal stress and shear stress value and the intercept on the y-axis as shown over here. You can see from this figure only, the intercept on the y-axis as 55 is said to be cohesion, that is 55 kilonewton per meter square is the cohesion value, and the angle it made with the horizontal axis is 23 degree. So 23 degree is said to be angle of internal friction for this respective case, and this become very much important to mention over here that in the direct shear test the drainage control is not there. Hence that is also one of the limitation of the direct shear test. The failure plane is always predetermined, so it is also one of the limitations. This limitation is rectified while we discuss the triaxial test, and how they get rectified is also seen over there. But the direct shear test is very simple and performed at the many places because it is easy to perform and the shear strength parameter is easily obtained. I hope everyone understand this discussion that how the normal stress is plotted on the x-axis. I will repeat again that for the 100 kilonewton per meter square of normal stress, the shear stress is 198 kilo kPa, while corresponding 200 it is 139. For 300 it is 100. It is 180 as you see from the figure, and for the 400 this value is going to be 222. When we plot that and draw a line crossing these points, if these points more or less come in this fashion only, but if it come a little bit not exactly in the straight line, the best fit graph could be plotted, and that will okay. Someone microphone is on. Okay, I will request everyone to keep your microphone off. If any confusion is there, any audio video problem is there, or maybe due to network issue, if I get disconnected or something like this is there, you drop a text message. If I get disconnected, please drop a text message, because text message could came in the notification in my mobile as well. So I will come to know and rejoin to carry forward the class. And if you have any doubt, you can unmute and ask. But if there is no doubt, so to smooth communication of class, please try to keep the microphone off. Right. Okay. So I think this discussion is clear with everyone. And now I will move ahead for the triaxial test. And at the end you see I have kept many problems as well associated with the same, and I will also try to give some more problem specifically from the GATE examination or the engineering services examination in the next class, or maybe I don't know if I could able to make it. I will keep in the next class, or maybe at the end of the sessions I will keep the question associated with whatever we have discussed from first class to last class. Question and solution both are there in a separate PDF for your reference, for your better understanding of the subject. So that will be helpful over there as well. Okay, now we are talking about triaxial test. So in a triaxial test, a soil sample is tested in the cylindrical box, or the cylindrical cross sections with a height twice of its diameter. The standard dimension is 38 mm diameter, 76 mm long, 100 mm diameter, and 200 mm long. So this triaxial apparatus is a true representation of soil sample, which is not with the direct shear test, because if you consider any soil below the ground surface, it is found in that fashion only. It's not the case that in the direct shear test that problem is there, but over there the predetermined failure plane is there. Hence it is become difficult to say that it is the accurate failure and this much strength is there. More or less, the strength characteristics of soil is come closer to the value which is obtained from that test and the triaxial test, but it become very significant problem when the drainage consideration, or maybe saturated or the partially saturated, or maybe different characteristics of water, poor water condition is there, then it become problematic while performing the direct shear test, and the result may be sometime vary from the accuracy, but the triaxial test rectify all those problems. Over here the standard dimension is that of the cylindrical box is the 38 mm of diameter and 76 long. Sometimes it is also asked that the length to dia ratio for the triaxial test apparatus is 2:1. And subsequently the 100 mm dia and 200 mm long sample could also be there. Over here you can also see that the length to dia ratio is 2:1. Now you can see in a triaxial apparatus figure is printed over here. The sample is shown. See, this is the sample which is basically 76 centimeter, which is basically 76 uh, um, which is basically 76 mm in height and 38 mm in diameter, and the displacement measuring instrument is shown in the vertical, which is mentioned as displacement transducer is shown over in the right hand side of the upper plate, and other cell pressure, how the drainage is provided. Basically in the triaxial test we perform three type of tests: UU test, CU test, and CD test. In UU test we perform unconfined and consolidated test. In that section there is no drainage, all the drainage valve remain closed throughout the test, while in the CU test, in the second stage it is undrained, so the valves remain closed, while in the CD test the valve remain open throughout the test. So over there the very large time takes place in the complete performance of the test to obtain the shear strength parameter. So we will see one by one that why this cell pressure and the water and the valves remain important to observe, to calculate the effective as well as the total shear strength parameters. Now let's move ahead. How we determine the shear strength? We have already observed. Sorry. We have already observed that the shear strength parameter like C and phi could be calculated from the direct shear test, in which the normal stress and the shear stress at failure is known. We plot the graph with x-axis as the normal stress and the vertical axis as a shear stress at failure. The graph intersect at y-axis. The value at the y-intercept is said to be the cohesion while its angle with the horizontal plane is angle of internal friction. Okay, that value is known to us, but now the thing is like what is the shear strength, that also need to be calculated. Now see how we do this. So the determination of additional axial stresses become important is while performing the triaxial test. Okay, so in that case, you can see over here we calculate the cross sectional area equal to volume divided by original length minus the vertical deformation, which is also written as a actual equal to a theoretical by 1 minus delta L by L. This delta L by L is change in length divided by original length. And this epsilon 1 minus epsilon is also said to be longitudinal strain because it is the change in length in the longitudinal direction to the total length in that direction of the soil sample. Now in the principal stress, we have read the principal stress, maximum principal stress and minimum principal stress in the previous class as well. While discussing the Mohr circle concept for the shear strength, I have also given some of the problem related to the same. Now see what we are going to discuss from here. So the intermediate principal stress sigma 2 and the minor principal stress sigma 3 are equal uh, and are radial stress caused by the cell pressure. The major principal stress consists of two parts. One is the cell pressure acting at the end of the sample and additional axial stress from the load transducer. Now let me draw some figure for your better understanding. Okay, give me a minute. Let me draw a figure for you. Okay. Now see, suppose this is the cylindrical sample in which the soil is there. Now we want to calculate the stress. Now see, in this section some point is mentioned. Let me read this section again. Okay, this is on the small screen, but equally visible for everyone. So I don't think so any problem will be there. If any problem in the visibility, tell me. I will try to sort it out in some other way. But I need to keep it on the small screen to explain this thing because I need to draw something over there. So let's see. Let me read this point again, and then I will elaborate that things. The thing overwritten is the intermediate principal stress sigma 2 and the minor principal stress sigma 3 are equal and are radial stress caused by the cell pressure. Okay, let's understand up to this point only. Okay, my arrow is visible. Whether my arrow is visible? My cursor, the cursor of the system is visible. Anyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, so let's see over there. This is the cylindrical, as you have seen over here as well, that in the triaxial test, this sample is kept in the cylindrical section. I have drawn the 3D picture for the better understanding. So over here you see that the stress applied in this direction or maybe in the direction of the your screen, maybe whatever laptop or the mobile, if you see the stress applied in these two directions are equal because the stress this is the soil below the ground level. Assume the practical case scenario. Let me draw some other lines as well. Okay, so this is the ground level. This the upper arrow in the red color is the ground surface. Okay, and the soil sample lie between them. Now suppose this is the actual ground surface. Over here the soil is only soil is there. So the stress applied at this portion from this direction and in the direction of skin and from the all direction, the horizontal stress applied from all direction is always same, because uh, adjacent to this soil sample the same soil characteristics is there, more or less same soil characteristics is there, because we assume in the soil mechanics soil is isotropic and homogeneous. So you can see the value of sigma 2 and sigma 3 is the minor principal stress which comes equal in that direction. That point is mentioned over here. Now the second term over here is the cell pressure. So actually if you have seen the triaxial test then it's okay. If you have not seen, that's not the issue. The sample which you have seen in this figure is kept over here, and there is a water body is there, water is there all across it. So this water is kept at those sections to create the cell pressure, the sigma 3. The stress which is applied by the soil, the adjacent soil to this soil sample is calibrated, is kept through the water pressure, that is the cell pressure, that is the cell pressure sigma 3. Now the major principal stress consists of two parts. The cell water pressure acting at the end of the sample. Basically if you see, if water body is there, it's not only that it is applied in this direction, in this direction, in this direction, not the water. You assume soil only. If soil is there, it's not the case now that it apply in horizontal direction only, not in the vertical direction. If the soil is there, it's also apply stress in this direction and in this direction also. So this the major principal stress consists of two part, that is the cell pressure, that is the soil pressure acting from the upward direction. In additionally the additional axial stress, basically if some load is there from upward, so that additional axial stress is also there. So as we move ahead you will see, as we move ahead you will see that we come to understand two terms, that is one is sigma. Let me write as sigma only, because for one is sigma 3, and this sigma 3 is going to be um, the stress which is acting due to confining pressure or cell pressure, confining pressure or cell pressure, right? And another one is, if I am writing sigma, let understand that what I am meant to say, because I am not interested to waste time to search the symbol sigma over here. And another is uh, deviatoric stress, that is sigma d. That is the deviatoric stress. Now what this sigma d actual value actually is, that is nothing but sigma 1, that is the major principal stress. This is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 3. So this is going to be deviatoric stress. As we move ahead we will discuss these things in very detail, but up to this point I think so small approximate concept clarity is all with you uh, based on this discussion, right? Now I think so I can move ahead that what these points say. Let me read again and then sum up this section and move ahead. So over here it is mentioned that the intermediate principal stress sigma 2 and the minor principal stress sigma 3 are equal and are the radial stress caused by the cell pressure. The major principal stress consists of two parts. One is the cell pressure, that is the sigma 3, and the pressure acting at the end of the sample, additional axial stress from the load, that is nothing but sigma d, which is going to be sigma 1 minus sigma 3. Over here, when you calculate the value of sigma 1, that going to be the value of major principal stress acting at the soil section. Now let's move ahead. Over here you can see again, see this sigma 1 sigma 3 value is mentioned in the 2D plane, but where I have explained it in the 3D plane, I don't think any doubt will be there. What they say that first of all sigma 3 is acting in the horizontal plane, but in and sigma 3 is acting in all horizontal plane. So sigma 3 is the confining pressure. I have mentioned above, it not only acting in the horizontal plane but also in the vertical plane. So over here, um, you can see sigma 3 is active over here in at this cross section. So this is the confining pressure acting at the soil sample. Additionally, sigma 1 minus sigma 3, what I have mentioned in the previous slide, is going to be the deviatoric stress, additional axial stress acting in the vertical direction. When we sum up these things, this value going to be sigma 3 in this direction and sigma 1 in that direction. So these are the basic things which I think so understanding is very much clear. Now see over here that on the vertical plane sigma 1 minus sigma 3 is plotted, and on the horizontal value the corresponding strain is mentioned, and it is observed that as the value of deviatoric stress increase, the corresponding strain value is um, changed with the different pattern. Now over here some more point is also mentioned. Suppose that in the figure 2 it is shown that a tangent is drawn on the various semicircle drawn on the tau sigma plane, in which the vertical plane is tau plane, that is nothing but sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2, while the horizontal plane is the sigma plane. So we have drawn the various Mohr circle, and when we draw common tangent, that value intercept at the y-axis is going to be cohesion, and its angle with the horizontal axis is going to be angle of internal friction. That is also discussed while elaborating the result of the direct shear test. But what different over here from the direct shear test? This question must come in everyone's mind. So the basic difference between the direct shear test and the triaxial test is the drainage control, as we have mentioned very clearly in very first point of the discussion while elaborating the triaxial test. So over here you see that the intercept, this on the tau axis, on the y axis the intercept is going to be shear stress, but in that situation in the direct shear test we don't draw any circle, we just calculate the shear stress at failure corresponding to the normal stress, and the shear stress at failure is said drawn with respect to on the y-axis, while the on the horizontal axis normal stress is drawn, and the intercept on y-axis is mentioned at cohesion. No more circle is needed. Now 45 plus 5 by 2 is the angle is shown, while the shear failure and some other point is also shown over here, but their discussion will come as we move ahead. Now you see the total stress parameter and the effective stress parameter, they are two of the most important points which we are going to discuss as we move ahead. So first of all, the total stress parameter. Now let me write something. Let's try to use the pen. So the when we see say total stress parameter, we say C and phi. Okay, but when we say effective stress parameter, we say it as C dash and phi dash. Now, what is the difference between the total stress parameter and the effective stress parameter? So in the total stress parameter, we do calculation on the basis of total stress. No pore pressure term is needed over there. But if we are calculating the effective stress parameter, which is very much important in the practical field application, it become convenient to deduce the value of pore water pressure acting at the destructive place. Now, let's read what is mentioned over here regarding the total stress parameter. So, in the undrained shear test, the simplest method to determine the values of total strength parameter of soil is to subject suitable sample of soil to this test. In the test, the soil sample is prevented from draining during the shear and is therefore the sheared immediately after the application of normal load, like in the direct shear test, and immediately after the application of confining pressure in the triaxial test. A sample can be tested in 15 minutes or less, so that there is no time for any pore pressure developed to dissipate or to distribute themselves entirely throughout the sample. So in this manner we perform the test and we are going to found the parameters. Now, in the unconfined compression test, apparatus is the only capable for carrying out an undrained test, because the drainage control is not there in that test, and the saturated clay sample with the no radial pressure applied. Okay, no problem. Now, when we move ahead from the UCS, now unconfined compressive test, UCS, now we are moving to the types of triaxial test. As I mentioned earlier, there are the three type of triaxial test, in which first is the unconsolidated undrained test, second is the consolidated undrained test, and third is the consolidated drain test. Before moving ahead, let me clear some point regarding the all three. First, in the unconsolidated undrained test, there is no pore pressure dissipation. The valve is kept closed during the first and the second stage. And what is the first stage and what is the second stage? The first stage is the confining stage, in which the cell pressure is developed, while the second stage is the deviating stage, in which the additional axial stress is applied to found the value of major principal stress. Because when the minor and major principal stress is found out, we can draw the Mohr circle, and subsequently we change the value of uh, confining pressure, that is the cell pressure, to some other value, and we calculate the um, major principal stress, and subsequently we come to find at least three, two to three, three to four, or whatever number possible Mohr circle. Then we draw a common tangent crossing through them, and we are able to calculate the shear strength parameters. While talking about the drainage condition in the consolidated and drain test, the water table is not allowed to dissipate during the second stage, that is the debuting stage, while in the consolidated drain test, water is allowed to dissipate throughout the entire duration of test. So how these tests are performed and what are the point regarding the them, each we are going to discuss from this slide on. Now, first of all, see that the undrained shear test, uh, in the undrained shear test, the simplest method to determine the values of total strength parameter, basically if it is undrained, so there is no water dissipate, no pore water pressure dissipation takes place, so the parameter which is obtained automatically is going to be total shear strength parameter. But over here we could calculate the pore water pressure development, so that's not that, it is only that things. So the value of the total shear strength parameter of soil is to subject suitable sample of the soil to this test. In this test, the soil sample is prevented from draining during the shear and is therefore sheared immediately after the application of the normal load in the direct shear test. And immediately after the application of confining pressure and the deviating stress in the triaxial test, the sample can be tested in the 15 minutes or less, uh, so that there is no time for any pore pressure developed to dissipate or to distribute themselves evenly throughout the sample. Now, when we talk about the drain test, basically two stages there, drain and undrained. So we must aware about the drain and its process. So for the drain test, a pro porous disc is placed on the pedestal before the test sample is placed in the position so that the water can drain out from the soil, and the triaxial cell is then assembled, filled with water and pressurized. The cell pressure creates a poor water pressure within the soil sample, and the apparatus is left until the sample get consolidated. This process usually takes about a day because we have to make the sample in order to perform the test. Give me a minute. Okay, now some drawback is also there. So the main drawback of this drain test is the length of the time it takes. Basically, if drainage is allowed, the time taken during the entire test each comes out to be large as compared to untrained test. Because if you have seen in the untrained test it is performed within the 15 minutes, but over here the samples will be left for the entire day, at least entire day. So that is the main drawback while performing the drain test. As if you we move ahead, we see UU test in which the drainage is not allowed throughout the test. Testing is the quickest test, said to be quickest test. Now over here you see the saturated soil sample and the partially saturated soil sample. Eh, so the piston clamp is there, and some other thing like the pore pressure dissipation valve is also shown for the partially saturated. For the saturated state sample, there is no pore pressure unit to dissipate because the valve remains closed throughout the testing condition. Now, talking about the consolidations that has happened, that has been completed the sample in seared by applying a deviatic stress at such a low rate of the strain that any pore pressure induced in the sample have time to dissipate through the porous disc. In this stage, the pore water pressure is therefore always zero, and the effective stress are consequently equal to the applied stress, obviously. And during the consolidated undrained test, this is most common from the triaxial test used in the soil mechanics laboratory to determine the C dash and phi dash. Why? Because over here it is possible to calculate the effective shear strength parameter, and it has been advantage that the shear part of the test can be carried out in only 2 or 2 to 3 hours, and the sample is consolidated exactly as for the drain test. Okay, this could be possible because in this the sample is not allowed to drain out during the deviatic stage. Hence, the CDS and FIDES, basically CDS and FIDES parameter could we could able to calculate as the pore pressure is also able to calculate. Now there is a problem mentioned over here regarding the concept which we have read. Now over here you see the cell pressure is sigma 3, that is 200, and the additional axial load, that is 342. So what question asked, let me read first of all, then we move ahead with the solution. So question say that the following result were obtained from the series of undrained triaxial tests carried out uh, on the undisturbed sample of the compacted soil. Each sample, originally 76 mm long and 38 mm in diameter, experiences the vertical deflection of 5.1 mm. If you remember, A corrected equal to A original, that is pi by 4 d square, pi by 4 into 38 square, divided by 1 minus 5.1 by delta L by L, 1 minus 5.1 by 76. Something like that is must need to be done to found the exact value of the axial stresses, because over here the sigma 3 value is known, but the additional axial load, that is the sigma d, is not known to us, so that we are interested in. So let's see. The question said draw the shear, draw the strength envelope and the diameter, determine the coulomb Coulomb equation for the shear strength of the soil in terms of total stress. Okay, in terms of total stress they are asking. So pore water pressure is also not mentioned over here, so this is not possible to calculate the effective. So in the term of total stress only. So first of all, sigma 3 value is 200, 400 and 600. Corresponding axial load is mentioned as 342, 388 and 465. So we need to calculate the axial stress. So we divide 342 by area. Area is pi by 438 square. But this is not the actual area, as the deformation delta L is 5.1 mm. So A corrected is going to be A divided by 1 minus epsilon. That is A corrected equal to A by 1 minus 5.1 by 76. So you calculate A corrected equal to pi by 4 into 38 square divided by 1 minus 5.1 by 76. So let's see. The cross section area is like, okay, in term of volume they have calculated. So they have calculated pi by 4 d square into height, and if then divided by 76 minus 5.1 by, basically this is nothing but the same thing. So what we did 1 minus delta L by L. If we do A, let me take a pen. If we A correct equal to A by 1 minus delta L by L. So this is nothing. This is nothing but A upon L minus delta L upon L, and that is nothing but A into L by L minus delta L. And this is again A into L is going to be volume upon L minus delta L. So that is the thing. They have calculated the volume, then divided by 76 minus 5.1. So corrected area comes out to be 1216 mm square. Now sigma 3 value is already known. Sigma 1 minus sigma 3 value is calculated by calculating the stress. So 281, 319 and 382. Now we need to calculate the major principal stress. So we know sigma 1 minus sigma 3 equal to D. So if sigma 1 minus sigma 3 is known to us, sigma 3 is known to us. So the sigma 1 value is calculated as 481, 719 and 982. How? Let me see if sigma 1 minus sigma 3. I will calculate for the first case. Sigma 1 minus sigma 3 is equal to 281. So sigma 1 equal to 281 plus 200 equal to 481, and so on, right? So in the same fashion, you could able to calculate 319 plus 400, 719, 382 plus 600, 982. Now you the question asked to calculate determine draw the shear strength envelope and determine the Coulomb equation for shear strength of soil in terms of total stress. Now we plot first of all sigma 3 and sigma 1 and draw a circle of radius 281 by 2 of diameter 281. Okay, and then second circle is going to be drawn from sigma 3 as 400 and that's become uh, 319 by 2, and subsequently third circle is also drawn with sigma 3 value as 600. Then we draw a common tangent passing through all of them, and And you see, first of all, 200 is the sigma 3 value and corresponding sigma 1 value is going to be 481 in this graph. Then second, 400 value is the value of sigma 3 and corresponding sigma 1 value is going to be something like 719. And in the third case, 600 and 982 is the value of sigma 1, sigma 3 and sigma 1 respectively. Now we draw a common tangent crossing through all three circles, or all three more circles, and that value comes out to be 100 at the tau axis, which is going to be cohesion. So 100 is the value of cohesion, and phi is comes out to be angle with the horizontal is 7 degree. So angle of internal friction is going to be 7 degree. Now we apply our equation tau equal to c plus sigma and tan phi. So this value is going to be tau equal to 100 plus sigma tan 7, and sigma is not known to us at this point of time, so we make the Coulomb equation as 100 plus 0.123 sigma into kilonewton per meter square is going to be our answer, which we obtained from the result of the triaxial test under normal 100 condition. Now the second problem, similar problem is there. Now let me leave you with this question for some time to solve by yourself, and we will take a small break for 5 minutes, and once we come back I will start discussing. In the meanwhile, please try to solve this problem. Okay, so I will see you after the 5 minute break. Please be remain in the meeting and try to solve the problem. I will show the problem on the presentation slide. Okay, welcome back. I think so. I can continue now. Okay. So over here with this question I have left you. So I am hopeful that if you have tried, you have already solved it. But let me discuss the solution for a while and then move ahead. Okay, so this question says that a series of drain triaxial tests were performed on the soil. Each test was continued until the failure and the effective principal stress for the test were okay. So effective parameter is mentioned over there in earlier question. If you remember, value of sigma 1, sigma 3 is known. That is the total stress parameters. Total stresses are mentioned over here. The effective stresses are mentioned, so we could able to calculate the effective shear strength parameter like the C dash and phi dash. So again over here the sigma 3 dash and sigma 1 dash is exactly mentioned in the previous question. We needed to calculate the value of sigma 1 by using the term sigma t equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 3, but over here the sigma 1 sigma 3 is already mentioned, so you can draw the first circle using the sigma 3 value as 200 and sigma 1 value as 570. The diameter of that circle is going to be 370, hence the radius is 185. So 185 is the radius of that circle. The first point is 200, second point is 570. You draw the circle. Let's see the graph which is already there. So the first circle with 200 and 570 is drawn. Then the second circle with the 300 value as sigma 3 and corresponding, you can see from this graph. I don't, you can see over here the value of 300 is there, and this circle goes up to 875. So the diameter of the circle is 575. The when I say diameter of circle, from this point to this point is the diameter of circle, which is 575. Next, the sigma 3 value is 400. And basically what we do actually, now we perform the test in such a way that we apply the confining pressure of 200, then apply the deviatric stress up to failure. And by the deviatric stress, we could able to calculate the value of sigma 1 and we draw the circle correspondingly. Afterward, we increase the stress to 300, confining pressure up to 300, then again apply the deviatric stress and see when the failure takes place. Corresponding to the failure, the deviatric stress is calculated, so the sigma 1 value, and then again we draw the circle. Afterwards, then again we increase the confining pressure to 400 and the stress at the failure, the deviatric stress at the failure is calculated as 1100 something, and then again we draw the circle. Afterwards, we draw a common tangent crossing through all 3 points, and that value comes out to be, and the intercept on the y-axis is said to be the cohesion, and the horizontal angle with the horizontal is the angle of internal friction. So over there, the intercept at y-axis to axis is comes out to be 0. So there is no cohesion, but the angle of internal friction is 29 degree. In this manner, we could able to calculate the value of stresses, right? I think so. There will be no doubt. Yes. So let's move to the next problem, similar problem, and see what is the difference over here from the earlier question. Over here, question asked that a series of undisturbed sample from normally consolidated clay was subjected to the consolidated undrained test. The result were in which the cell pressure is mentioned as 200, 400, and 600. Deviatric stress is nothing but sigma 1 minus sigma 3. Sigma 1 minus sigma 3. Okay, so deviatic stress is also mentioned as 118. Okay, so deviatic stress remain constant irrespective of total stress parameter or effective stress parameter. Why? That if the sigma 1 minus sigma 3 value is 118, then sigma 1 dash minus sigma 3 dash value is going to be 118 only. So that's not the problem. And the pore water pressure is at failure is 110. So first of all, the question asked to plot the strength envelope of the soil with respect to total stress and with respect to effective stress. So let me calculate with respect to total stress, then the effective stress. So let me take a new slide in which we could do the calculation. And the graph is already plotted, but if I show you calculation, it will give you better idea of the better understanding of the things. So let me take a new slide. Okay, so first of all, we are going to calculate with respect to total stress. Okay, so okay, so over here, cell pressure is already there. Okay, so this is I will write sigma 3 as C3, right? Just understand sigma 3 as capital C3. Okay, so C3 value, sigma 3 value is 200, 400, and 600. When we are going to calculate with respect to total stress, then we have no problem. We have deviatic stress is also there. Let me write Control C and Control V. Okay, so deviatic stress is going to be C1 minus C3, sigma 1 minus sigma 3 basically. Okay, now we need to calculate the sigma 1, that is C1 major principal stress. So C1 is C3 plus C3 plus CD, and this is deviatic stress is CD, right? So now we are going to calculate the value of C1. So C1 is C3 plus CD. So C3 plus CD is going to be 200 plus 118 is 318. 240 plus 400 is going to be 640, and 600 plus 352 is 952. Okay, now when we get the value of C1 and C3, it is very obvious that we could able to calculate, draw the Mohr circle. So let me take, okay, now first of all, you draw a circle with sigma 3. Sigma 3 is 200. Okay, let's keep it. Let me show you in over here only. So first value sigma 3 is 200. It is mentioned over here 200. Okay, and so we are drawing total stress. So total stress is the bold line and effective stress is going to be dotted line. So for the total stress, the value of sigma 3 is 200 and corresponding sigma 1 value is 318. So you can see this value is 200, this value is 380. Second, the sigma 3 value is 400 and the corresponding sigma 3 value is 240. So you see over here the sigma 3 value is 400 and corresponding sigma 1 value is 640. Subsequently, the sigma 1 value is 600 and 952. So you see 600 and 952, and then we draw a common tangent crossing through all through these, and we could able to calculate the value of phi u and cu. So whatever the angle, when we measure with the help of compass, when we draw actually on the pen or paper, or maybe we are using the excel sheets, so you could able to calculate the value of c and phi corresponding to these two values. Now this thing is clear. Now the second part of the problem become more interesting. So give me a minute. This is A. Now we are going to solve the B part. So control C, control V. So okay. Now let us draw the second part of the problem. And what is the second part? Second part, in the second part, the cell pressure is sigma 3, but the pore water pressure is also there. So we need to calculate sigma 3 effective. Okay, so we have need to calculate. So give me a minute. Let me copy the pore water pressure as well. Control C, and then rule. Okay, so now we need to calculate the effective cell pressure. Okay, effective cell pressure, that is C3 effective, and this is equal to C3 minus pore water pressure. Okay. Okay, so this is C3 minus pore water pressure. C3 is 200 and pore water pressure is 110. So effective cell pressure is 90. Similarly, this some mistake is there. See 2220. I think so. This might be 220. Okay, this is. Okay, I don't know whatever the value. Let us assume as 220 and for this time being. So 400 minus 220 is going to be 400 minus 200, 200 minus 20 is 180, right? And this is going to be 600 minus 300, 300 minus 20 is 280. Now the CD value remains same, that is 118, 27, 240 and 350. Now C1 value get changed. C1 is C3 effective. plus CD. So C3 effective at this point of time is 110 plus 118 is 210, 220 and 228. Might be calculation mistake from my side, but I think so you understand that what I want to convey over here. Okay, so similarly over here this value is going to be 240. Okay, over here mistake. 118 plus 90. C1 equal to C3 effective plus CD. So 118, 218, 208. And this value is going to be 240 plus 180. So 340, 440, 420. And this value is going to be 352 plus 280. So 580, 632. Now see the graph. If you see the graph, first is 90 and this value is 90 and this value is 208. 90 and 208. Second value is some calculation mistake is there. I don't know the pore water pressure is how much at this place. So this value comes out to be 180 and 420. I don't know. It is approximately 180 and 420 only. So I think so that is correct. Now third value, if you see from here, is C3 value is 280 and 632. So you see this 280 and 632 value is plotted. Then a common line is drawn and the effective stress Mohr Coulomb envelope drawn corresponding to that, and the result of discussion is mentioned in this figure. Okay, so I think so up to this there will be no doubt in anyone's mind. I don't think so I need to discuss more problem based on this. So this is homework for all of you to solve this problem. This question will be very much similar to that one only. The question say that the following results were obtained from the consolidated undrained test on the specimen of the saturated clay. Determine the shear strength parameters, effective and total both. So this question is exactly similar to the previous question what we have discussed right now. So I hope this question you could easily able to solve for. So let me leave this for you and move ahead. Give me a minute. Okay. I am very much confident that you could able to solve this problem. Okay. Now let's move ahead with some more discussions before moving to some other types of questions which we have with us. Let me see how much things are left. Okay. Okay, one additional point I want to mention over here that I have created about 100 slides, so that is next to impossible to cover in this class only. But that slides only contain questions, questions, and questions at the end. After maybe last 15 slides or 50 or more slides have questions on it. So I will suggest you to go ahead with those questions, solve those problems. Very simple problem. 25 MCQ problems are there. That will hardly take 25 minutes to read only. So I will suggest you to do so. If you could not able to cover the entire thing in this class, but I am hopeful that I will try to cover that. Let's see. Okay, so now we are talking about the behavior of soil under shear. So before going to the topic, familiarity with the following term are needed to understand. First is the overburden and effective overburden pressure. Second one is the normally consolidated clay. Third one is the over consolidated clay, and next one is the pre-consolidated pressure. Okay, let me explain this one by one. So first of all, overburden pressure or effective overburden pressure is the pressure applied on the soil um, uh, at the specific site. Uh, then the question arises, okay, the pressure acting over there is the overburden. No, this overburden pressure is the pressure which is more than the normally the stress applied on the normal condition. So similarly for the normal concentrated clay, the normal stress is acting over there, no excess pore water pressure is there. When we talk about over consolidated clay, in that case the example is like suppose some structure is made at the specific locations, and due to construction of those structures, there are the stress applied on those specific site from the large duration of time. Now those structures are demolished, so the stress at that specific location get reduced. But in the past, as the stress is applied over there and soil is not the elastic material so that it regain its shape, so it is already under the very much stress, so more consolidation settlement may be less. So that point is significant while stating this point. Now the next one is the pre-consolidated pressure. So pre-consolidated pressure is a term which we discuss elaborately when we move to the chapter of consolidation. Now let's understand the behavior of sand and other granular material. So unless drainage is prevented deliberately, a shear test on the sand will be drained one as high value of permeability makes consolidation and drainage virtually instantaneous. As you know, if you I have discussed this very early when we discussed the type of soils, soil classifications and characteristics of soil regarding the permeability. Over there we say that sand is the soil of high permeability. I have given the example, take a container and keep the sand and allow the fixed amount of water to cross through that sand particle, make some perforations at the bottom of the container so that the water could flow out. You will see that the flow of water takes place from the sand or maybe the gravel is very fast, while in clay it will take a very large duration of time. So that is mentioned over there that the sand and granular material and drainage is very much faster, while when talking about the rain sand there will be no pore water pressure and the intergranular pressure will be equal to the applied stresses, while for the saturated sand the pore water pressure will be zero due to the quick drainage and the intergranular pressure will be equal to the applied pressure. Now talking about the dense and loose sand, it come to it is one of the highlighting point that during the shear strength of the sand increases because of the development of the negative pore pressure. If the movement of pore water is restricted from movement, the while for the loose sand tends to decrease in the decrease in volume during the shear, and the shear strength of the soil decreases because of the development of positive pore pressure if the movement of pore water pressure is restricted from the movement. Now talking about the critical density, the density at which there is no increase or decrease in the shear strength when the sand is maintained at the constant volume is the critical density. Okay, so this term you understood because some MCQ could be there based on these terms only. Now talking about some other point, the shear strength envelope of the granular soil is greater the shear resistance or for the dense sand than the loose sand. Now you see for the dense sand its envelope is move upward. For the loose sand this is downward. This means that for the loose sand the angle of internal friction is less, while for the dense sand angle of internal friction is large. Now, talking about some other point, like the saturated cohesive soils. So these soils are defined as the saturated clay and the sealed in either natural or the remolded state. Talking about the unsaturated cohesive soil until the late 1980, These all are the theoretical aspects which I read very quickly. So until the late 1980s, it was felt that both the value of the shear strength and the volume changes characteristics of an unsaturated soil could be considered in as function of the single effective stress in a similar manner to that of the saturated soil. This theory has been discarded now. Now we will consider only the behavior of the saturated clay only. Now talking about the unsaturated undrained shear, the shear strength of soil expressed in terms of the total stress component to the Coulomb law as tau f equal to C plus sigma n tan phi. But for the saturated cohesive soils tested in the undrained shear, it is generally found that the tau f is a constant value being independent of the value of the cell pressure sigma 3. Hence, we can say that phi value is going to be 0 because it is a purely clay soil when the saturated cohesive soil is subjected to the undrained shear. Hence, tau equal to Cu equal to 1 by 2 into sigma 1 minus sigma 3, where sigma 1 is the maximum principal stress and sigma 3 is the minimum principal stress. Now the graph which is obtained by drawing the common tangent, so only the cohesion value and the angle of internal friction is discarded. Now talking about the shear strength, if we wish to think the result of an undrained test in terms of the effective stress, we should consider the nature of the test. If for a particular undrained shear test carried out at a cell pressure of PC, the pore pressure generated at the failure is U, then the effective stress at failure becomes sigma 1 dash equal to sigma 1 minus U, and sigma 3 dash equal to sigma 3 minus U equal to PC minus U. And these things is already discussed. We have also solved some problem associated with the same. If the test is represented using the cell pressure of PC plus delta PC, the value of the undrained strength of the soil will explicitly as obtained from the first test, because the increase in the cell pressure delta PC will induce increase in the pore water pressure delta U of the same magnitude, delta U equal to delta PC. Obviously, as the cell pressure increases, same amount the pore water pressure rate increases. So maybe a Scampton pore water pressure parameter B equal to delta U by delta sigma 3, that comes into action at that point of time. Okay, we will discuss once the Scampton pore water pressure parameter A and B and A bar comes into picture. Now the effective stress circle at the failure is therefore be the same as for the first case. It therefore seems that there can only be effective stress circle at failure independent of the cell pressure value in an undrained shear test of the saturated soil. So these things, when I have solved out problem, that point is mentioned over here in some way or the other. Now you see, we have discussed these questions also, in which as I remember, the effective stress and total stress parameter, in which I created a table and solved this question very elaborately. So what is mentioned over here regarding the consolidated drain and drain test, let's see. So C dash for a normally consolidated clay is negligible and can be taken as 0 in virtually every situation. A normally consolidated clay therefore has an effective strength envelope similar to that shown in the figure. Obviously, we have already drawn this, and under the then condition, it will behave if it is a functional material. Okay, so effective and total both is drawn. When it is total, it is 5. When it is effective, it is 5 dash. Now the another problem is mentioned over here, in which it is said that a consolidated drain triaxial test was conducted on a normally consolidated clay. The results show sigma 3 value as 276 and delta D F equal to 276 kilonewton per meter square. Determine the angle of internal friction phi, angle theta that the failure plane makes with the major principal plane, the normal shear stress on the failure plane. So sigma 3 is mentioned, sigma 1 minus sigma 3 is mentioned, that is 276. So sigma 1 become sigma 1 minus sigma 3 equal to 276, and sigma 3 equal to 276. So sigma 1 value is 276 into 2, that is 552. Now we you know, other equation is also there, is that sigma 1 equal to sigma 3 tan square 45 plus 5 by 2 plus 2c tan 45 plus 5 by 2, but there is no question, so consider c as 0. But and you can also write sigma 1 equal to sigma 3 into 1 plus sin 5 by 1 minus sin 5, that is also equal to tan square 45 plus 5 by 2. From here we could calculate the value of phi, which comes out to be 19.5, that is the value of angle of internal friction. The second part of the problem asked that the angle theta that the failure plane make with the major principal plane. If you remember, the 45 plus 5 by 2 is the angle, as I recall, this is not discussed, but you need to know that the failure plane make an angle with the major principal plane is 45 plus 5 by 2. The phi value is known to be 19.5. The 45 plus 5 by 2 value comes out to be 54.7 degree. The third part of the problem asks that the normal and shear stress on the failure plane. So the sigma n value comes out to be sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2 plus sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2 cos 2 theta, while the tau value is sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2 sin 2 theta. After calculations, the sigma n value comes out to be 368 kilonewton per meter square, while tau value comes out to be 130 kPa. While verifying tau equal to c plus sigma n tan phi, you can see that the tau equal to sigma c plus sigma n tan phi, c value is 0, but when we do the sigma n tan phi, its value comes out to be 130, that is exactly equal to tau value. Hence the verification of is also made for the respective problem. I think so there will be no doubt regarding this problem in anyone's mind. Now we can move ahead with the next problem. So let's see. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, no problem. Okay, now we are seeing over here the unconfined compression test. Over this is the thing. After that, base shear test is also there. Problem associated with the same is also the point of discussion of, in this class. Then we move ahead with some of the problem related to the same. Right. So let's see. First is the unconfined compression test. Over here the C1 equal to sigma 1 by u or q by u. Basically over here the that term is present only there. Now some other point is also there, and the 45 plus 5 by 2 is the angle with the principal plane is already discussed. The stress strain relationship can be obtained from the result of the triaxial test or the direct shear test. In the direct shear test, the results are plotted in the form of shear displacement on the x-axis versus the shear stress on the y-axis. In the triaxial test, the diabatic stress is plotted as the ordinate axis against the axial strain in the percent. The unconfined compression tests are shown by plotting the axial stress against the axial strain. Okay, so that's not the problem. How we plot the graph, that is the shown over here. Now this become very much important. As you see, the over consolidated, normally consolidated. This term is very much important. Okay, I haven't elaborated the normally consolidated over there. Normally consolidated soil is that clay is that in which the that soil surface is in the normal condition. There is no stress is applied in the past, not in the present. Whatever the normal best normal condition available, in that condition only these soil characteristics are there at those places. So the over consolidated clay show the greater strength than the normally consolidated clay, and has the pronounced peak which occur quite early. The stress fall off as
the strain increases, a phenomena called work softening. So the same thing observed from the figure as well, as you see that the volume first decreases little bit for the over consolidated clay, then remain in the increasing direction, while for the normally consolidated clay, volume get decreases as the strain increases. Subsequently, for the normally consolidated clay, you see the graph move in asymptotic mode in direction, while for the over consolidated clay, it's increase linearly, then comes down as the strain increases. The shear stress value vary in this direction. The over-concentrated clay, after a small initial decrease in the volume, so a volume increase upon the shear, while the normally concentrated clay get compressed when sheared. Now, similar, some more point is also there, in which the pore water pressure, the reduction in the value of the shear strength from peak value to the residual value, and the large shear strain are applied to an over-concentrated clay. As you see, for the over-concentrated clay, initially little bit increase in the pore water pressure is decrease, so then the decrease is observed, while the normally concentrated clay, the pore water pressure remain increase with the value of strain. Now the shear strength value with the axial strain and the peak strain and the residual strength is also shown mentioned in the figure 2. Now talking about the effective rate of strain, which is shown in the previous slide, the undrained strength of clay is known to be affected by the rate of strain or the rate of shear. The undrained strength increases with the increase in the rate of shear. The Cascarande and Wilson report a reduction in the undrained strength of the clay soil by 40 to 80% when the rest test duration was increased from 1 minute to the 30 days. However, a small variation from the normal rate of strain in a laboratory to the triaxial test is observed. Tests do not appear to make significant difference in the untrained strength. When the difference in the rate of shear in the laboratory and in the field is large, the untrained shear strength can be affected to an appropriate amount. The effect of rate of shear on the CD strength is negligible. So, okay, the discussion about this only, which is mentioned over here. Now you again see the value of deviatric stress for the loose sand and the dense sand. So in the loose sand is more or less behave as the normally consolidated, but the dense sand is behave as the over consolidated. Similar is with the volume change and the wide ratio variations as for the NC and OC. That is normally consolidated or consolidated. Okay. Now the some other term related to the shear strength is that to determine the CR. Okay. To determine the effective and okay. Let me see. Okay. So over here you have seen that the loose sand behave as the normally consolidated, while the dense and behave as the over consolidated characteristics. Similar value is obtained for the shear strength. Now we move to the vein shear test. In the vein shear test, a difficulty is to often encountered in determining the shear resistance of the soft saturated clay deposit is in obtaining the undisturbed sample. The shear strength of such sensitive clay may be significantly altered during the process of the sampling and handling. Vein test offer a method for overcoming this problem, because this could also be applied in the field as well as in the laboratory. So that problem could be eradicated, which earlier sustained for the direct strength test and the triaxial test thing. Okay, now you see over here the triaxial apparatus. In this also the figure is presented in which the vein and the dia is mentioned. And now you see the shear vein consists of the four steel blades called vanes welded at the right angle to a steel rod. The vein is pushed gently into the soil up to the required depth or at the bottom or the of the borehole and the torque is applied, basically rotation is applied gradually to the upper end of the torque, the rod until the soil fails in the shear. Due to rotation of vein, the torque is measured by noting the angle of twist and the shear failure occur over the surface and the end of the cylindrical having the diameter d equal to the diameter of the vein. Now, some derivation is mentioned over here, but the final equation is t equal to pi into t pi into cu into d square by h by 2 plus d cube by 6 for simpling above for one side. Basically what difference between these two is that uh, what difference is that we apply, we kept the blade up to the ground surface or it insert in the ground. So on the basis of that, the second value term is changed to dq by 6 to dq by 12. Okay. Now a question, when we solve a question related to same, we get the better picture, better answer for those. Over here it is mentioned that a vein of 112.5 mm long and 75 mm in diameter was pressed into the soft clay at the bottom of the borehole. The torque was applied to failure of the soil. The undrained shear strength of the clay soil was found from another test as 40 kilonewton per meter square. Question asked, determine the value of the torque at which the failure of the soil occurs considering resistance from both top and bottom, and second is from bottom only, then d by 12, and in that case d by 6, dq by 6 and dq by 12. Okay now, right? Okay, so from here, from the vein shear test, the torque at failure relates to the undrained shear strength and the vein geometry. The formula and the calculation is mentioned over here as t equal to pi d square s into h by 2 plus d by 6 and so on. The sustainable value is also mentioned over here. Now you see the given data is mentioned and the calculation for the resistance from top and bottom. So the 0.0487 kilometer meter of the torque is applied, while for the second case the 0.0441 kilometer of torque need to be applied in order to achieve the that much strength. Hence, with this, I think so the conceptual problem is comes to end. But again, we have some other multiple choice questions. Very quickly, we will discuss these questions and some of the today's sessions. But after these MCQ questions, some other problems also is kept for your reference, so you can solve those problems just based on the discussion which we have made in this class only. So I am hopeful that, looking forward that you will going to look out those questions, and that will be more beneficial for your understanding of the topic which we have discussed. Now, okay, so first question is, which of the following is not a method to determine the shear strength parameter of soil? So, direct shear test is the method through which we could calculate the C and phi. Triaxial test is also a method through which calculate the C and phi. Unconfined compression test is also the method which we have read also today, through which you calculate the cohesion. Now the plate load test is not that method. Plate load test is used for the bearing capacity, not the shear strength. Others are the shear strength test, right? Now next question again. I think so you remember 38 into 76. I can see something. So on the standard specimen size in the triaxial test is 38 into 76 mm. Other one is also there, that is 100 into 200 mm. That is not in the option over here, so option B is correct. But if both options are there, option B need to be the first choice, right? Okay, see the same answer is mentioned over here, 38 into 76 mm height. Alternatively, second one is 100 or 200, which is not there. Now, the next question say in the direct shear test, the shear plane is the natural plane of weakness, random or predetermined horizontal plane, inclined failure plane. If you remember the discussion in this class only, it is a predetermined horizontal plane. Next question asked, okay, option C is the correct. Predetermined shear failure plane. Next question is, which triaxial test type is the fastest to conduct? If you remember, I have said that the UU test is the quickest test. So option C is correct. Other options are the CU test and CD test. So let's see. The option C, UU is the quickest test. 15 minutes it will take. Other test, some take more than some takes 1 day to keep the sample in that position. Okay, so those discussions are already there. Now see, this is also there in the PPT only, in which it is asked that in the UU test on the saturated clay, phi u undrained friction angle is generally taken as 0. Why? Because in UU test, the shear strength is independent of the confining stress. So phi u is 0. Option number A is the correct answer. Next question says, in the unconfined compression test, undrained cohesion Cu is related to the compressive strength Qu as Cu equal to sigma 1 by 2 or Qu by 2, UCS by 2, right? Sorry, UCS equal to Cu by 2. Okay, whatever. Now, what are the main drawbacks of CD test? The pore pressure is not measured. No, pore pressure could be measured. Need very long time, maybe. Not applicable to clay. No, applicable to clay. Provides only total stress parameter. Okay, let's see. So the option number B, that it require very long time, is the most major drawback for the CD test. Next question say, in a CU triaxial test, the pore water pressure is CU triaxial test, pore water pressure is 0, not measured, measured and considered. So consolidated undrained test, always negative. So the answer for this question is measured and considered. In CU test, the sample consolidated first and then the shear undrained pore pressure is measured. The next question asked, for the normally consolidated clay in the CD test, the effective cohesion C dash is usually high, high, right? Negligible, negative, infinite. So option number B is the correct answer, that it is negligible for the normally consolidated clay. ठीक है. In a Vance shear test, the torque at the failure is proportional to T equal to pi d square into H by 2 plus D by 6. Okay, so it is proportional to all of above, that is U as well as D square as well as H. Is the option number D is the correct answer. Both surface and in resistance. Hence, no, it is from the two sides, from both bottom and top, the relation become different. From the bottom only, relation become slightly different. In the drained shear of the dry sand, the pore water pressure is 0, positive, negative, or constant. So over here, option number A is the correct, that it is 0, dry sand, no water, pore pressure. Next question asks that the loose saturated sand during the shear tends to dilate, compress, remain unchanged, or harden. So it is compress, loose sand compress, positive pore pressure develop, reduced strength. Subsequently, the dense saturated sand during the shear tend to compress, dilate, soften, lose strength. So dense sand dilates, negative pore pressure developed. Hence, the strength get increased. As the negative pore pressure developed, effective stress also get increased. Next question says, the critical density of the sand refer to a density of the saturated sand, density at which the no volume change occurs during the shear, minimum dye density or the maximum dye density. So the option B is the correct answer, that at the critical density the shear causes the neither compression nor dilation, next part of the problem asked the failure envelope from the drain triaxial test on the soil was phi dash equal to 29 and c dash equal to 0. The soil is purely cohesive. No, cohesion is 0. How cohesive? Purely frictional. Over consolidated clay, lowest. So option number B is the correct answer. 0 cohesion plus frictional resistance only. So the frictional soil. Now in the UU test, increasing the confining pressure increases strength, decreases strength, no effect on the undrained strength, double the strength. So as the option C is correct because by applying the confining pressure only, if you could vary the strength, so that will be very great addition in the field of geotechnical engineering. So that's not the case, right? In the next part of the problem, it is asked that which soil exhibits strain softening, loose sand, dense sand, normally consolidated or the over consolidated. So if you remember, we have seen that for the over consolidated clay, so the peak followed by the drop strain softening. Next question say for the vein shear test in a borehole, bottom resistance only, the torque is less than the full vein, more than the full vein, same as full vein, or independent of depth. So this value answer is A, that is less than the full vein top shear absent torque is reduced. Next part of the problem asked in the unconfined compression test on clay, lateral pressure is 0, greater than 0, less than 0. So it is always 0 in the UCS test, right? In triaxial apparatus, that is also the limitation. Basically, we could not apply the confining pressure in the UCS test. Next question is in the triaxial apparatus, the intermediate principal stress sigma 2 is equal to sigma 3. Option number B is the correct answer. Now, when we move ahead, we see the stress strain curve for the over consolidated, so no peak strength, peak followed by softening, continuous hardening, no volume change, so peak followed by softening. Option number B is the correct answer. It is also shown from the figure which is mentioned in the PPT earlier. Now, moving to the next problem, with the increase in the strain rate, the undrained strength of clay decreases, increases, remain constant, become 0. So the correct answer is B, that it increases. Now the next question asks the critical void ratio ECR is found by plotting the volume change versus stress, void ratio versus stress, void ratio versus volume change. So option C is correct, that is the void ratio versus volume change. Next question say which test is most suitable for in situ determination of undrained shear strength of sort. Okay, so it is the direct shear test, unconfined compression test, or the vane shear test, or the plate load test. So the vane shear test is the in situ test. Mostly it is applied in the field only. Now move to the last problem of the MCQ. We say which one of the following statement is true, that effective stress equal to total stress, effective stress equal to total stress plus 4 water pressure, effective stress equal to total stress minus 4 water pressure. So the option C is the correct answer as per Tarjagi. Now with this, I think we could sum up the today's session. Additionally, I have kept some more problem for you. Just read these questions and answer, and it will give you better insight about the understanding of the topic. Over here also 25 question is there. I will share this PDF with you. Please read this question, solve this question by yourself. Theoretical as well as some numerical problems is mentioned over here. So I will request everyone to go ahead with those PPT and try to solve those problems, and that will be much beneficial for all of you. With this, I will sum up the today's session. Thank you everyone for attending, and see you in the next class.